I felt like it would be an interesting, episode for people to understand, like, how do we get in this business? What do we do before this?
I can't be here in 5 years. I'll never see him. I mean, like working nights and weekends in a retail environment, it's like daycare was so challenging.
We're coming up on 4 full years, right?
July. Well,
What?
yeah, now. April.
Well, in terms of like you being licensed, but yeah, like no,
But we met in April.
Yeah. Oh,
it
look
might
at
be
that.
our anniversary, actually, almost exactly. That would be so funny.
I think 12 years older than you. I missed my millennial calling by 56 days. I am technically Gen X, 1979.
Which is why we had to change the name of the podcast to Moving Sucks, because we were just misleading everybody. We go against everything we say of being true, transparent, and honest, and you weren't even a millennial. Welcome back to another episode of Moving Sucks.
All right, who you got with you?
This is Little. He's here for right now. We'll see how long he stays, but I've got the blanket today, so I feel he's going to be here a while.
Yeah, well, it is a very rainy, kind of shitty day here in Philadelphia, and we're in one of these midway, intermediate areas of weather where it's 70 one day and then it's 45 the next, which drives me nuts, and everyone's getting sick.
I mean, both of those things are happening in one day too. So
yes, that's true. So we are going to talk about, this is one that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I think it would be interesting for our audience, our origin stories. Let's talk about how we got into the business.
The year was 1991.
What?
I was cut out of a stomach-coated operating table.
No, not that kind of origin story, Nusky. Let's talk about why we got into this business. I feel like we're both in a pretty good mood today because this answer can vary based on the whims of the market and the conversations we have on a daily basis. But I felt like it would be an interesting, episode for people to understand, like, how do we get in this business? What do we do before this? We've always kind of like intimated that we were in this or that, but let's each take a little bit of time and tell our audience.
It's been so long since I've mentioned retail.
It hasn't been long since you've mentioned retail. You always seem to like weave it in.
It's been a while. I don't think I really have since we started Moving Sucks.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, then who goes first, you or me?
Why don't you go first?
Okay, so the year was actually 2019. Well, I guess we can kind of go back one more year. 2018, I had Jackson. So for those who don't know, I am an only parent. I have been an only parent since halfway through my pregnancy. So it's just been him and I since day one. And I was working in retail at the time. I was in retail management and was the senior sales manager of one of the highest volume stores of this company in the United States. So that was a chaotic.
What company?
American Eagle.
Okay.
That was after Victoria's Secret, after Michael Kors, after Sperry. I don't have to go into my entire history of retail, but at the time, I was working at one of the highest volume American Eagles in the company. I loved the chaos of it, actually. I did not particularly love the chaos of like post-COVID, or I guess like during COVID retail, but otherwise I loved managing a lot of people. But it was like, so it was 2019. Jackson was about a year old. I'm thinking like 5 years down the line, 5-year plan, and I was like, I can't be here in 5 years. I'll never see him. I mean, like working nights and weekends in a retail environment, it's like daycare was so challenging because of just, if I'm working until 7, daycare closes at 6, then I'm still stressed about who's going to go get him. And it was just always a lot. And then like, I'd be working nights and weekends. I'd never get to see him. And I want to be able to like take him to sports. And there's not another parent here to be able to do that. So I'm it. So 2019, I was talking to my cousin. She's an agent in Delaware. And I knew I wanted to do real estate for a little while, even before then. But like 2019 is when I decided like, I'm doing that. And not in a way of like, I'm going to try real estate, which is like my least favorite thing people say. Like, I'm going to try it. That's like, you have to decide I'm doing real estate to be successful. Because if you just like try it or you do it like part-time, you're not going to get anywhere. takes a big investment, but I decided I'm doing it. But it was a matter of how. And, because I'm the only income. And, if you know anything about how real estate works, we're not salaried. We don't get an hourly rate. We get paid at the settlement table. So, like, it's not necessarily like you get your license and you're going to have closings and you're going to make all this money and you're going to be sitting on fat bags of cash right away. So I was like, I don't know. I do love this bi-weekly paycheck I get here. But at the time, I'm still in diaper land and babies are expensive. And, so I was like, all right, I'm going to do it within the next 5 years. Right now, maybe not, but I'm going to do it. I then went to New Orleans. This is the fun part. It's weaved into the story. So I made the decision on my own. I hadn't told anybody yet. And we go to New Orleans for my cousin's 21st birthday. And they decide they want to go to a tarot card reader. I'm into like the spiritual world and all that, but the tarot card readers, that's where I start getting a little like skeptical. Like I'm good with with psychics to a degree, but
You like into like astrology and tarot cards, and
I think there's some validity to it. It's tarot cards that I wasn't sold on. But listen, it's my cousin's 21st birthday. We're in New Orleans. Do as the Nolans do. So we go. And I was like, meh. And we're in there and she's like saying stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, okay. Then she says, you're going to start business. You're going to be successful. And I was like, okay. I didn't really react, but I was like, I didn't tell anybody that I was thinking of doing this. And that's I feel like when people go to like tarot card readers or psychics, it's like they're talking about like your love life and you're like all of this and your riches. And she got very specific in like me starting a business. And I was like, and she's talking about like my endeavors and that like it's going to be a risk, but it's going to pay off and that I'm going to be successful. And I was like, yeah, okay. But then I was like thinking about, I was like, that was oddly on point because I had just made that decision like probably a couple months before that. Well, fast forward a couple years, COVID happens. Everything's on fire. Everything's crazy. Going back to work after having 2 months off. The 2 months off was awesome. Had the best time of my life in those 2 months.
Yep.
We go back. Pure chaos and not the fun kind. Just wow. Call outs, the policies put in place for like getting tested for COVID, and then nobody's scheduled. And long story short, I get fired and got fired from my job. I had been in retail management for 13 years and had spent the majority of that with this company, and it sucked. And all of a sudden, I'm an only parent. I don't have a job anymore. I'm kind of freaking out. But the week before that, I had met with you and our old broker, Chris. And because I know how a paper trail works and I know how to get somebody fired. And so I wasn't dumb. And I kind of was like, something might happen here. So I was covering my tracks like, this might be when this happens. I had already met with you and Chris. I had my interview with Chris first. I mean, you can say from here, but then he showed it to you and you were like, yep, let's meet her. And I was already in talks with you guys about joining the team before I even started my classes, and then got fired. And I said, hey, ready. So I was in a little bit of a pickle of like, do I go it safe and just, find I could get any other retail management job? I had enough background and successful background with it. Or is this just the sign of the universe of this is my time to just do it? And so I kind of just said, well, this is what a savings is for. And I buckled down and I said, I'm going to go get licensed now. That's when I started shadowing with you guys. I'm pretty sure I was out like within a couple days with you, and was like, I was also in a dilemma of like, well, now I don't have a job. I didn't know if I was going to get unemployment yet. Jackson was in daycare, which is practically its own mortgage payment. I had my mortgage payment, had all my bills still. And I was like, do I keep Jackson in daycare? You advised if you're going to invest your money into something, it should be that. And I did. I made getting licensed my full-time job, kept Jackson in daycare, made it happen. I got licensed in 3 months and said, I'm going to have my license before my 30th birthday. And it was 8 days before my 30th birthday, but I got it and I passed. And it was great because I had already been working with you and the team leading up to it. So
Yep.
it led for a pretty good launch as soon as I got licensed.
Let me ask you something. Why did you want to get into this business?
Because what I liked about my job in retail management was I really enjoyed teaching my staff and coaching them and leading them. I loved like customers and I loved helping them. I mean, it was like such a smaller scale, but like my favorite thing. And when I worked at Victoria's Secret too, the best thing ever was just like somebody coming in. I loved like helping them and talking to them and discovering things about them and like helping that, like having them walk out feeling better than they did when they came in. And it wasn't just a matter of like, keeping things straightened and organized and just like, hitting buttons on it. It was just like, actually making an impact on people's day. And I wanted to do it on a larger scale. And I'm like, I've got to be able to like have the same impact, but on a larger, more important scale. And I know that when I bought my house, I had a great experience. I wish I had like kind of knew more about what I was doing as I was doing it, which is what I wanted to bring into this. But I just thought that like I want to impact people on one of the biggest things that they could do in their lives, and that's buy a house, because that is one of the biggest purchases you ever make in your lifetime. And if it's not and you're purchasing bigger things, give me a call. I'd be happy to help sell you a house.
Yeah, I
But,
mean,
but yeah, I just wanted to help, and I wanted to educate people too, because like I said, when I bought my house, was fortunate to have an awesome agent myself. Again, I kind of just wish that it was a little more educational based. I got in here safely, and everything was done right. I just want to be able to bring that education and coaching piece to the consumer so that they know what they're doing. And now that more that I'm even in the industry, and I felt this way beforehand, but now I feel even stronger about it now. And it's probably what's going to keep me going is the bar of entry is very low into real estate. However, and that leads to people who are not necessarily maybe as qualified to be doing this. And like, these are what we do for a living is we're controlling people's housing situations and getting in safely and responsibly. And there are people doing this that shouldn't be doing this. And even not even just the buying side, but the selling side. Like, there's a lot of money being left on the table and just a lot of stress that is being involved in this process that doesn't necessarily have to be. And I want people to be doing this and be in the hands of people who are going to take care of them and do it safely and responsibly and with as low stress as possible.
mhm.
And that's why I want to do it, because I know that I'm going to. And not everybody does. And I want to bring a good standard of care to the industry.
Yep. Okay. Well,
That's
I
a
think
very interviewed answer, but it's true.
it is like, and I think that was one of the reasons that you and I are going on our fourth year. Uh, we're coming up on 4 full years, right?
July. Well,
What?
yeah, now April.
Well, in terms of like you being licensed, but yeah, like no, I
But
mean,
we met in April.
yeah. Oh,
It
look at
might be
that.
our anniversary, actually, almost exactly. That would be so funny. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back and check
Well,
now.
listen, I mean, you and I definitely have a shared um, philosophy when it comes to this business. We've just kind of gotten here. I mean, that's normal. We've gotten here two totally different ways.
Oh
Um,
yeah, entirely.
and I would say though, there's a lot of really great agents in our market and all across the country who also share that philosophy of like they really want to be able to take care of people uh, and and coach and teach people. And my coach actually has been telling me for the last couple of months that I should be like a coach. Like I should think about getting into coaching. And I'm like, I said, but I already do so much of that with my clients. Like I'm already being able to be mentor, like obviously being the leader of the team and be able to coach you guys. But also like I think like a lot of the coaching bucket that fills me up is done through my clients. And I like to take really great care of them. And I like to, make sure they avoid the landmines. My origin story is a lot different. Um, I think 12 years older than you. I missed my millennial calling by 56 days. I am technically Gen X, 1979.
Which is why we had to change the name of the podcast to Moving Sucks, because we were just misleading everybody. We go against everything we say of being true, transparent, and honest, and you weren't even a millennial.
Well, you knew that going in.
I know. I was part of the problem.
Yeah. So really, it was you.
I was carrying the team with my identity.
That's okay. No, but my origin story was, I graduated from Loyola College and I got out. And my father pulled me into his office and said, well, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I know what I don't want to do, and that's go work in a cubicle. And I had seen Office Space way, way, way too many times in college, which, by the way, is a cult classic, and anyone who has not seen it should. But my family was in real estate development. We had a project that was literally breaking ground the month that I left college. So basically, my father's like, well, listen, he's like, if you don't know what you want to do, he's like, why don't you just come out and dig ditches till you figure it out? So,
and you did.
And I did. And I went out into the field. I had the softest hands in the world. I'd never had an ounce of manual labor to my name. I had done mostly office work in like during summer, during colleges, working in real estate, but I wasn't really, I was never doing anything with my hands. 3 weeks into that experience, the person who ran the backhoe blew out his back, and he shows up one day, can barely get out of his truck, and he's like, get in. So I essentially, in 2002, began my career as an operator. It wasn't really a career as much as it was just being able to deal on operate things on a construction site.
You know what I was doing in 2002?
What's that?
You know what I was doing in 2002?
So you were 11 years old. So what was that? What were you doing? You were in
just walking into sixth grade.
You're fifth grade? Yeah.
Fifth into sixth, yes.
You were learning about decimal points. I was out of college. So there you go.
Sorry, go on.
I don't feel old, by the way. I just don't. My older brother says it's like once you turn 50.
Well, that'll fortunately for you, you're also like the youngest of 8 million children. So
yeah. So I got a unique perspective on the longevity of life. But anyway,
sorry.
So I
2002. Sorry.
so basically, I was able to. I ran crews. So I got my leadership skills by chasing a bunch of people across 144 acres in carts and backhoes and pickup trucks and dumpers and all that good stuff. So basically what ended up happening is I anything with a diesel engine and a hydraulic line, I learned how to operate. I was a project manager. As they say in the business, I could scratch your back with a backhoe. Like I was very, very good at operating. But what then ended up happening is that after 2.5 years, we opened, and it was not just a residential community, it was a golf course. And then we opened the golf course and construction turned to maintenance. Totally different thing. I've mowed states worth of grass. I hated it. I didn't like maintaining. I wanted to build. I wanted to, like the ADD in me was like, I don't like this detail work.
It's too just monotonous and just same thing all the time. That's why I don't like office jobs. It's the same thing all the time. Just run cycle, repeat.
Yeah. And I like to be able to show up one day and it was here, and then I could leave that day and it was like at a different spot, like moving projects forward. And I think a lot of real estate transactions that way. Right. So, but I basically then moved inside. It wasn't the best move for me. I cut my selling teeth selling private golf club memberships during the Great Recession. My father was a master salesman, and he taught me a ton on how to do it, but I wasn't in the right mindset. So I wasn't very good at it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the administrative side of business. So, but I did muddle through. We hired a new superintendent. I went back out to work on the golf course, was not happy, but I had some life events that occurred. I lost one of my siblings to cancer. And then 4 months later, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. So with a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old.
Is that all? What even is stress? Like,
yeah, it's no big deal.
No.
So at that point, I'm still working on the golf course. I'm going into work at 4:00 in the morning. My wife is battling cancer, potty training my daughter, and nebulizing my son every morning. And at that point, I made a decision that I was like, okay, regardless of what happens, like I have to change something.
I've heard this story like multiple times, and I still can't even process just the thought of having to have two young children and cancer and grieve loss of sister all at the same time. That's just
Yeah,
mm-mm,
I'm
mm-mm.
sure. I'm sure there's all kinds of.
And then you decide I'm going to switch a career too.
Well, my
Oh, for
switching
the
of a
better.
career. So just so you know, even though I did work for my family, I was not fired from my job, Jen.
That's okay. I
I made
listen. Getting fired is the best thing that ever happened to me. I got
I
fired
know. I
twice.
made I made I made a cognizant decision to do this, and there were two options. I was actually going to either become a professional poker player or become a real estate agent because I was very good at poker. I knew that if I had really studied and did everything I needed to do, that I would be able to become probably a pretty self-sufficient poker player, not some massive star, but just enough to make enough money. Because what I needed to do is make more money and also have the flexibility of schedule so I could take things off of my wife's plate. But I decided on real estate. Thank God I did, because who knows what would have happened during COVID. And it's also just not the best lifestyle anyway. So I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to get my real estate license. And I was just like you, man. Just went and did it. And I
Listen,
got,
if my husband came to me and said, I'm either going to, these are my two options. I want to be a professional poker player or go into real estate. I would sign you up for the real estate classes myself.
well, I didn't actually tell Allie about the poker, but I did about 3 or 4 months of research into each profession before I decided like which one I wanted to do. And so I originally was going to do it like kind of part time to add some extra money, but in the back of my mind, I always knew I was going to do it full time once I got my bearings. And I got started, took the classes, passed the class, passed the tests.
How long did it take you?
I did the in person, so it took
No, it must be
2 weeks.
nice.
Yeah, it took 2 weeks. So yeah,
So for
so
those who don't know, it's 70 hours, 75 hours of education, which sounds like that's 2 weeks worth of a full-time job. Like I said, I made it my full-time job. Um, you can do it in person like Seth did, and it is structured in like a 2-week timeline, or you can do it self-paced online. I had to do it self-paced online because it was like COVID-ish time and there weren't in-person classes. 75 and I told Seth, I was like, oh, it's 2 weeks of work and I'm making this my full-time job. And I was dropping Jackson off at daycare, coming home, studying, working on my courses all day long, stop, pick him up, come home, working on it while making dinner, outside with the trunk of my car open, sitting in my trunk, working on it while Jackson was playing outside, spending time with him at night, putting him to bed, and then taking the exams at night. And it still took me 3 months. Just putting that out there. I just got
yeah,
to say, it was not,
yeah, it's not
oh my
easy.
God, like, oh, 75 hours, that's nothing.
It's not easy,
It's
but
not
if the
75 hours.
classes aren't hard and the tests aren't hard, sorry to certain people who have not passed the test on their first try, like you and me with 90s.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Jen and I both aced our tests.
Yeah.
So but no, in the end, I got licensed. I joined a brokerage, and I just went all in, man. And I had a couple team leaders, but never did I have, and I will humbly say, I never had what I've been able to provide for Jen, where we had structure, we had meetings, we had trainings, and all that
Oh,
stuff.
I'll give you shit on everything all the live long day, but not on that. People ask like, um, well, I had an agent that I was actually helping. She's an agent in Jersey. I was helping her purchase a condo in Philly last summer, and she asked me, she's like, how come you like you're on a team instead of like working like just for yourself as an independent? And I get asked that not infrequently, actually, because humbly, I'd say I'm like skilled enough to be able to be an independent agent. But I told her, I was like, I said, I'm on a team because I wouldn't be as good as I am without having been on one this entire time. I was like, I asked her how she learned, and she just had to like wing it and
Mhm.
kind of like learn things the hard way and like do things incorrectly. And she would have to like ask other agents just like across from her on the other side of a deal for help. And I was like, I never had to do that. I had all the training, and any questions I had all the team people to be able to ask. And I'm still on a team because I still find value in it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think also that just by osmosis, like we get on huddles every morning, and it's like, someone's got a problem, and then you hear it, and then in 2 months you have the same problem, but you know the answer. You know what I mean? It's like
I'm
it's
also
just
just a
like
social creature.
what?
I'm also just a social creature. I don't do
Oh,
well like by myself. There's a reason I liked being in retail. There's a reason why I liked like
yeah,
being in a leadership of position of hundreds of employees and being able to like teach, train, coach,
yeah.
lead. Like I can't. I'm not
Yeah,
a.
well, we're both like pretty gregarious people, but also having a small little tribe for support and just just to have around and community and also the accountability. So I didn't really ever have that. I was very self accountable. I did have a couple team leaders if I ever had an issue, but there was never any structure. And I knew in 2020 when I decided to start a team, I knew that that would be something that I would create.
What a
So
time to start a team. Everything's shutting down. The world's going crazy. Can't show anything. Gonna
that
get
was great.
arrested for putting a sign in the lawn.
Yeah, I mean that was crazy. So yeah, so then I started. So I was an independent. I wasn't an independent agent. I was in on some groups and everything from 2016 until 2020. Started a team. 2 months later, the world shut down with COVID,
Yeah,
and then the entire real estate world went absolutely crazy. And then we grew a very very big team
that's what
to
I
I think
came
it was
into.
I think there was like 8 of us,
Nine.
and then in 2023, when the market kind of contracted, we consolidated, and now we have a kind of a ninja force here, which I love because there was a lot. We were so busy during COVID, but it wasn't it wasn't efficient. It was very much like come one,
We know
come
what
all.
drives me nuts?
What?
Like a little nuts, and kind of makes me kind of like raise an eyebrow a little bit of like, you think? When like I tell people when I got into real estate, they're like, oh, what a great, this must be a great time to get into real estate. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm sorry. Like, first of all, when I was getting into it, and also my demographic, like, it's very buyer heavy. It's not very seller heavy. That would have been a correct statement if you are a purely listing agent, because literally you could do absolutely nothing and just flying off the market like nothing. But
Mhm.
I was buyer heavy, and oh, good Christ, that was listen, if I could be successful in those few years there as a brand new agent, I'm going to do great for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
But that was not the easy time to get into real estate. That was absolutely bananas.
Well, it was, and as somebody who was already established, it was very much like, sure, you want to join? Great. I got leads, so let's. I mean, I had leads for not everybody, but I had a lot of leads going out the door, and but I mean, in the end, I think you and I have a lot of alignment in terms of what we wanted to get into this business for. For me, kind of, it was definitely about flexibility and the ability to build my own business. And if you get to a certain level in this business, you do have flexibility. And that's like flexibility just in terms of being able to leverage things off, but also like we're now at the point where like we can kind of dictate our schedule a little bit where like we are kind of the authority.
I
There's a
think
lot of
you
agents, there's a lot of
well,
agents who just are like doormats their entire career and they just like drop what they're doing. But being able to structure like a business with your life, um, sure, it's risky. There's no W-2, no one's coming to save you. There's no health insurance. There's no, there's a lot that doesn't come into play, but the upside is great in terms of the money, but also upside's great in terms of contribution. And for me, that was because I'm 12 years older than you. I had a different perspective that in 2015, I saw a lot of people that I was friends with who had already bought homes and they had lost value. or they just like didn't have the ability to, they had made a financial decision that they regretted a little bit. So I wanted to kind of right that wrong and be able to dedicate my branding and my business to like making sure that people are making good financial and housing decisions. And I think I've said it on this podcast before, but I will say it again. I was like, I have cost myself hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years by giving good advice. By giving advice, being like, dude, I can't let you buy this house. Like, I just can't let you buy it.
It's like in the episode where you had to guess your reviews.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know who this is. I say that to people all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of like, Seth told me that I shouldn't buy a house right now. And I'm like, yeah, that could be a lot.
That doesn't narrow it down.
It doesn't narrow it down. So I very much wanted to get into this for my family.
I also don't pressure people into.
You do not. You do not. You never wear that sweatshirt ever.
No, never. By the way, for anybody listening, my sweatshirt says "Want to buy a house."
Yeah, but going back to you, man, like I remember. So how it worked is we had a broker, and then we had, and then I was one of the part owners and team leaders in the brokerage. And what would happen is that we had ads out for potential licensees, and our broker would pre-interview this person, and then if there was anybody that was of interest, he'd send them to me. And I think it was like a 22-minute video, and I think I got about 2 minutes in, and I was like, okay, I don't need to see him. Let's meet this chick. So,
and by the way, that was on April 24th.
Look at you.
Which is a Thursday, and just may be a day that we drop this episode.
Maybe that's
on
a good idea.
Anniversary.
There you go. So as soon as I met you at Rivercrest, and what was the line? I said, I always told people.
I know exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I always tell people, I said 87% fail in the first 3 years. And then what did you say?
Must suck to be that 87%.
Because that ain't going to be me. Yeah.
Or I said, good thing I'm part of that 13%.
Something like super confident, like super confident and sassy. And I was like, okay, she has the right mindset to overcome.
Yeah, they said, oh, sucks to be them. Good thing I'm part of that 13% then.
Yeah, like there's a because I've interviewed dozens and dozens of people in the past 5 years to like join a team, maybe getting a real estate license, even across the country. And because people see me and they're like, oh, like I'll ask him like what it's like or whatever. And I can tell usually within the first like 3-4 minutes whether that person has actually kind of turned that switch on. And I could tell that you were just very confident, and like you have to shovel so much shit in this business and overcome so much stuff that you need a certain base level of confidence in order to get, and I remember when I was newly licensed, and I remember one of my wife's friends said like, oh yeah, I talked to Seth. He's so like obsessed with like real estate. It's
such a compliment.
Yeah. And I said that, and I think my wife kind of said it to me like this woman was saying it like it's like all he talks about or whatever. I was like, that's what I need. Like I have to be obsessed. I said, I can't dabble. Like I gotta go. I'm all in here. I was like,
and too, you said something before. It was like, this business can just be like unpredictable. And I think about it. And when I was like getting into this, like that didn't intimidate me, because considering like, I'm not going to go into a whole kind of expose of like my entire life, but my entire life has just comprised of just having absolutely no idea how I was going to get out of just a shit situation I was in, or just like I had no idea how like something was going to get better, how something was going to happen or anything. And I just trusted a process. I said, listen, I know what I don't want to have happen, and I'm gonna go for it. Do I know how it's necessarily going to play out? No, but so far it always has. So I'm going to go for it. And considering that's been like kind of my mentality and my approach for literally every other step of my life, for when I was really, really stuck, and just trusted that it has to work out. So it's going to, and it had, and not necessarily in a way that I would have thought, but ultimately worked out. I was like, this will be the same thing. Do I know how this is going to go? No. Do I know if I'm going to get unemployment? Nope. But I'm going to get licensed. And when will I get paid next? I don't know.
Yeah.
Good thing I got furloughed for 2 months and just banked a bunch of that money.
That's right. Well, listen, I mean, we don't talk about this nearly enough, but it is very hard. It is very hard to get started in this business, and a lot of people don't realize that the things that you need to do. I think a lot of people get licensed. They think, oh, their friends are just going to call them, or they're going to make some calls, or have some coffees, and everyone's going to just start buying and selling with them. And there's also it's just a very hard business to learn to do well. And that is something when, as a team leader, I've always tried is like no hackassery, man. We play the full 9 innings. Like this is a serious job. We are dealing with, for 95% of the people we deal with, the largest financial transactions of their lives, and it's a serious thing. And anyone who doesn't take it seriously, they don't get to stay. They don't get
that,
to.
and you need to be there needs to be personality aspect.
Well,
You work
true,
with other agents, and it's like there is you need to be collaborative. You need to. I mean, there's different approaches, and this is probably an episode all in of itself of, taking different approaches. And we've done one before, or at least we've touched on it. But you're also. I was talking to an agent yesterday at an open house, and oh my God, God bless her. It's very like a breath of fresh air. Or something. It's just you do need to have an ability to be able to communicate with others, even in different personality styles, or be able to at least find common ground with people. And nobody wants to work opposite somebody that is just gonna be that you get the sense that this is gonna be a raging pain in my ass.
Yeah. You have to have a high EQ, and you have to have an ability to. I don't want to say you need an above average intelligence, but to do it well, you have to really know how to solve problems and understand if then logic. You need to understand if you have to solve a problem, you need to get from A to G. What are those steps to go in? So it's not always the easiest thing for people to do.
It's like putting puzzles together. That's all.
Yeah, it's like puzzle. Let's talk about puzzles and elephants. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, geez. We're already 36 minutes into this.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll leave it at that. But if anyone was curious about our origin stories, we are both on the same team. We are both in Philadelphia, but we got here 2 totally different ways. And we are happy to be here, happy to be your real estate resource. And by the way, if you haven't already, can you subscribe, give ratings,
comment, send it out, share it,
review, go on Apple Podcasts, go on YouTube, leave a comment.
Be nice.
Be nice.
Don't be a dick.
Don't comment on our appearance.
Unless it looks savvy. No, I literally told us at this point. I was like, and then my hair, well, that's just going to be what it is today. I give up.
It's fine. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.